There we are,
And
live.
miraculously, we
Good.
are live. Awesome. So, Dave, you want to talk about like what we're going to be talking about tonight?
Yeah, basically, the document we have that we're going to be presenting is the shamanic resonance of language in Tolkien's Legendarium. And that's because Lisa tells me that we have a lot of people in our patrons and our wider community interested in Tolkien's Elven languages. And she had what's that's one thing that sparked it off. The other thing that sparked it off was Lisa had an idea of her own that Tolkien may have received languages from spiritual sources, and so when I originally heard her say that, I'm like, okay, well, how am I going to present this? Because there's not evidence against it, and there isn't evidence for it. So I had to create
Right.
a whole framework, logical framework for this, where it could be plausible. So that's basically what this document is about. And as Tolkien said of his own works, it grew in the telling. So I started with a list of axioms, and eventually it turned into this whole paper, which is about 7,000 words and pretty close to it. So,
Wow. That's impressive. And I can't thank you enough for going down the rabbit hole for me, because for me, it's an idea, but like it's just an idea that I have. And the fact that you had done so much research that actually supports, like the idea that it's possible is really cool. And I just wanted to thank you for that, like in public. Before we get going, I wanted to double check and make sure that I got a hold of some of the people wherein our Septiquitra necklaces that we anticipated at the
oh,
holidays,
right,
we're not
yes.
going to be able to get those until the spring of 2025. And we're going to take a look at it again. What had happened is we were basically on the very edges of being able to purchase all of these for patrons. And as soon as we realized that we could do it at the price point that was told to us, we were placing an order. And we received a message back from the manufacturer saying, oh, we can't do this anymore. We had to raise our prices because silver went up 25%. So we have to pass our cost along. And it just made it impossible to do at that point. I guess the good news is that we're going to instead get busy with getting the Way of Arda's lore a new EIN number and setting it up in Montana as a nonprofit in Montana rather than trying to do it in California again, because California just didn't work. And so that's what we're going to be doing. And so we're in the process of that. And I did want to talk about like maybe some future videos that we're going to do, since I don't see anybody in the chat room. So we could even talk about some of the videos that we're going to do. Dave, did you have the list in front of you of
Yeah.
some of
Oh,
our
well,
future videos for
yeah,
our patrons and for
it's
the public?
it's on my desktop here, so I'm launching the
Yeah, we can
program
just
now.
read them off. We don't need
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
we don't need to show the list to anybody.
Okay. Well, the one we're doing now, that's this video. That's was your original idea. Did Tolkien learn Elvish from non-corporeal beings? That's this video.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
we
And
got
we also did the Tolkien and shamanism video
yeah,
already. And
yeah, I've
I
already
linked
done that.
that video down in the description of this because there's a lot of ideas that translate from that Tolkien
Exactly.
and shamanism video to this one. We're just going to be
Yeah,
focusing on the languages in this video, and it's long enough. Dave found a lot of
right.
material.
Yeah.
So,
So far in our list of upcoming videos we've done too, we've done a Tolkien and shamanism one, and then we've done my basically introduction and autobiography one. So that's the two
yeah.
we have done. And then after this video, there's Tolkien channeling the Legendarium, analyzing Tolkien's creative process through references like the BBC interview and letters by JRR Tolkien, as well as his art. And then Tolkien as a bard, examining Tolkien's role as a storyteller and his impact on literary history. Tolkien and magic, revisiting and expanding on Tolkien's understanding of magic with reference to letter number 155. And then Tolkien and Doggerland, investigating the connections between Tolkien's work and a submerged landmass Doggerland off the coast of Western Europe. And then the 8th one, introduction and backstory for Lisa Allen, Calanternio. That'll be you.
Yeah.
You'll have to handle that.
And then Dekindre will have a turn too.
And then Dekindre's is number 9. And then Tolkien and Elven symbols, which we were going to move up, but I just put it at the end because we haven't really you haven't.
And that's a good idea right now, because well, we've had to delay the Septuquitra necklace delivery to our people, so it makes sense to delay that one right now. That one is in progress though. That paper got started in 2007, I think.
Right.
Maybe 2008. So
I found it in my old email.
Out more, but it's getting there. So
I remember several months ago I found it in my old Gmail archive, and
I'm so glad that you found it in there, because I didn't have it anywhere, and because I've already had the one hard drive crash that I kept all of my stuff on that hard drive, so I won't do that again. So Dekindre, did you want to greet all of our folks?
Hi everyone. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day.
Yeah, how's your progress with moving from Hawaii to Scotland, which is a very large undertaking?
Massive. Prior to this meeting, I was moving around a bunch of stuff, packing stuff, getting rid of things, so it's going very well.
Oh, that's good though. I'm glad to hear that. But yeah, that's a big undertaking, because you have a giant house, and I'm thinking when I'm moving, I'm just my room full of stuff or whatever. But it's not like that for you. You have a whole family,
2,000 square foot house, and I'm condensing pretty much everything we own down to roughly maybe anywhere between 50 to maybe 100 boxes that are then going to take about 4
and then
months
you
to
also
get
have
over
your
there.
Merchandise from your store, the Mystical Source, right?
Which I'm reopening in the UK, and so that's going with me, the laser engraver, all of that. And then in between that, I'm working on papers for Way of Arda's Lore. We're doing our behind the scenes.
You were updating our bylaws, thankfully. Yeah,
I'm still working on updating the bylaws to reflect the change that we're making. So when I'm not packing,
and I'll double check that too, being more of an administrative overview, because I did legal secretary stuff in the 90s, so if it gets too much, I can do the little, we'll change the state here, we'll change the name here, those kinds of things.
But when I'm
have
not packing,
the what would you call it? The clergy part of the bylaws. You're still doing that. So
correct.
Yeah.
And then working on that, and working on all the behind the scenes stuff that we do, and getting things ready to really push this year for the group to become a lot more.
Yeah. I know, I'm so excited about some of the growth that we've actually already had. And what I mean by that is we changed our name. We're going to be doing all the documents, doing all of the things. And we're going to be updating our Redbubble store. So that's another thing that we can actually work on, in that we're not going to be able to do the necklaces quite yet because of costs. But it's still exciting. So we're going to be rebooting our merchandise through that, as well as through Patreon's back end. And what I mean by that is many of you have already gotten your sticker, and then maybe another decal or something. I want to get it to be where Patreon will at some point, like after you're a member of 6 months or say, like that they send you a mug or that they send you a t-shirt if you're even longer. So I want you guys that are patrons, meaning paying patrons, to, you know, keep on receiving. Okay. Like, you know, you keep on giving, we keep on giving back. Right. So
Right.
I want
Getting
that
benefits.
to kind of be a thing. Yeah. And,
you know, we want to grow and take care of the individuals that make up
absolutely
the path that we're on. And then,
yeah,
I don't know how many of our patrons and everyone else knows, but other exciting things that are happening oftentimes behind the scenes is we've been interviewed by a tenured professor in the Netherlands. Is he in?
Yeah.
So
he's at the
if you are
University of
talking
Leiden.
about Dr. Marcus Davidson, yes, he's in the Netherlands.
And then we just did our interview in the UK. So
yes, with a master. She's working toward her master's in
thesis, yeah,
folklore and European heritage, and her focus is that Tolkien is a heritage. And I love that. And actually, Dave, like maybe on a note like that we'll put down, maybe we can shift one of the emphases of the videos about Tolkien to Tolkien as heritage, like, you know, in order to kind of fit that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
like,
yeah,
I think we maybe could do that. And that way we'll have a video about that. But we were interviewed by, and I call her future Dr. Emily Baines. And yeah, and we've been interviewed twice now. And so she continues to have amazing ideas. She's presenting her entire research project to the Tolkien Society and actually got accepted to present her work toward that. And in the past, we have not been very accepted by the Tolkien Society. We've kind of been, you know, outliers because of our position of going that extra step further and saying, no, this is a spiritual path as well as a body of story and mythology. We went the next step. And I think that for some people, whether they're atheists and academic, or whether they're very, very Catholic, I think that it's offensive to them.
Yeah, I just want to say it actually tends to freak out extremists of every stripe. It freaks out extremists.
That's true. Yeah.
It freaks out extremist Catholics because they believe that Tolkien belongs to them. It freaks out extremist pagans because they believe that this is strictly a fiction and what you're doing is bullshit and it's an abomination. Believe it or not, some pagans could be even more, or at least as much.
And yet they tolerate the rings of power. Oh well, maybe they do, or maybe they don't. We don't know.
And and for the materialistic atheists, it freaks them out because both spirituality and literary things are beneath our notice and therefore are inferior.
Depending, yeah. Like it, meaning that like it's not science, so like forget it, right?
Yeah.
And that they're not like recognizing the value of story to humanity. Like literally story is everything, even if your story is atheism and science and whatever, you know what I mean? Like it's still a story. So yeah, it's interesting times that we have behind the scenes. So yeah, we're you know, gonna be making I guess like academia or you know, through the Tolkien Society, that's a different level now, because in the past we have been rejected from their material, and the fact that she's actually bringing us into this research of hers under a different label of Tolkien as heritage, and they're in agreement with this, and she's going to present it. I think that that's pretty awesome. So
it is. I mean,
thank you for reminding us to share that with our patrons, Dick
I just want to comment on the last part. In the early days, we were called Tia Elvish or TE back then.
Right.
And I actually wrote to the Tolkien estate, and their response was very insulting, and it was almost like, to use the military term, terminate him with extreme prejudice. You know, that
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So yeah,
So
is
there's
just
some
exciting.
changes, obviously, in the personnel in the last 20 years in the Tolkien Society. That's not terribly actually shocking, knowing how much more, like, I've noticed an upward trend towards alternative religions, including, you know, like the emphasis in witchcraft and, you know, some of these other kinds of things that are happening. I just think that there's a large uptick in non-Abrahamic religions right now.
Yeah,
now, I don't
I've read
know
articles
if
like that
in the
myself.
Hindu or the, you know, the Eastern part of the world is having such a shift in theirs, but I know the Western world definitely is. And Dekindra, you are actually going to an area, if I'm not mistaken, that has one of the most concentrated, like, if you will, pagan aligned, and we'll say that loosely because it could include witch types, druid types, heathen types, etc. Like
Correct,
European,
correct.
like pre-European, you know, like
Well,
indigenous, you know,
exactly.
spirituality.
I mean, Scotland, for example, in the UK, Scotland specifically, the pagan as a whole, so druidry, witch types, Norse,
Right.
the various ones, paganism as a whole is currently the fourth largest religion in Scotland and
That's
growing
impressive.
rapidly. So it is, yeah, the Europe and all of that is seeing a outside England, other areas as well, are seeing massive upticks in a return to nature-based and pagan-based religions. It's
Yeah,
it's
and
definitely a
the
lot of
trends
growth.
that happen overseas in Europe first actually eventually come here too. So that uptick will continue even in the United States, even if it didn't move the bar, you know, maybe on the figures yet because of the minority religions that are here. But I think that at some point it's going to become a larger minority religion for sure,
Well,
even in America.
I would also say that that in the U.S. or any other country, not that there's very many that are as large as we are, when you have 330 something million people, a shift in a bar one way or the other noticeably would take considerable time. When you only have, 10, 15, 20, 30 million people in a country, a sudden shift in growth is much more noticeable due to the, condensed population.
Yeah.
So Europe, you would see
Absolutely.
this far more faster than you would in the US because 1
Yeah.
million, 2 million people isn't a big deal. Whereas if you have 10 million people and
Right.
suddenly a million people shift, you're going to notice.
Right. And at this point, like, and a lot of people, like, I will say this for the United States too. I do still think that there's a lot of people in the closet here. And what I mean by that is because of their families having, like either Mormon background or whatever it is, wherein their entire support system would be cut off if they left their religion. So I do think that they're like, okay, I'll show up to church, but really I'm doing this. So it's having a rise. And I do think that there is also a rise in Europe, but not as much as in America. And the reason I think that it's on the rise in America is because paganism and Christianity had been already so separate, like as far as, you have to be one or the other, where the Mary Magdalene type of thing that, you know, had some crossover, and Gnosticism and things like that, that has a larger footprint in Europe. So I think that people are just kind of more loosely, you know, they can have Christianity, but they can also have, you know, like their, I guess, indigenous beliefs of, you know, like prior to Christianity dominating their landscape, you know, hundreds of years ago. And so I do think that the Christo-pagans, which, by the way, that is a thing, or Christo-pagans, I actually think that many of them would like our path, because we actually are integrating many elements of like what they find really comforting about Christianity, but we're also exploring the lore of their ancestors via Tolkien, having explored that in a way that was like extremely unique. And it would definitely be like, for some people out there, it would be a match to them vibrationally, you know. And of course, we've already talked about a DNA moment, you know, or whatever. Like, if you feel like your DNA might be matching up with some of those things, and it doesn't matter how you experience it, as long as you experience the pull.
I just want to mention here, since you already mentioned Gnosticism. Now, within both Way of Artist Lore here and in my other group, Ainulindalë, I will occasionally use the word gnosis, but understand that when I do that, I'm using it in its original Greek sense, meaning special knowledge of spiritual mysteries. It doesn't mean capital G Gnosticism, it's small g gnosis. And if you look that up on a site called etymologyonline.com, then you can get the how it was used, the word was used historically and all the way back to, you know, to ancient Greece. But
so you're using it with a small g or a large G? Does that make sense? Small g. Yeah.
And because several people have, we had one recently, but we've also had people in the past say, "Well, I don't know. I looked into Gnosticism, and it's not what I'm interested in." No, that's not what I mean. There most of the people who call themselves Gnostics, who have an internet presence, are into conspiracy theories, and both my co Ainulindalë website webmaster on that site, and
forum.westofwest.org, or is it forums? Yeah. I can't remember.
Let's see here. I believe it's forum plural, but let me check just sure.
Okay, I'm typing it in the chat for all of our people, and the original meaning.
Well, that didn't work, so perhaps it is with a plural. Let's see here. Well, actually, now I'm not getting it at all. So let's see here. Westofwest.org here. Let's see. It's forum.westofwest.org. Or you could just type in westofwest.org and you'll go to the main website.
And then click forum. Yeah, you could do it that way too.
Yeah. And anyway, to go back to what I was talking about, Gnosticism. Most people who call themselves Gnostics or are into Gnosticism as it exists now. We're not talking about how it was back in AD 4 to 600. We're talking about how it is right now. Most of those people are actually conspiracy theorists, and neither Luthien nor I believe
some of them are whole archon, like dominating, blah blah blah. So like there's a whole thing about that.
And that's not us. Both Luthien and I consider that crap. So, you know, put on your tinfoil hat if you want, but we're not putting on a tinfoil hat with you, you know. So
yeah. And by the way, I'm somewhere in between. I think that there are forces that are set in place that, you know, I do feel that like intuitively, but I don't think that it's like, you know, oh, these creatures are like watching over every little, you know, time you blink your eyes and, you know, like wake up and, you know, go to the restroom. I mean, I don't think that that's what's happening, you know.
And the problem with conspiracy theory, well, one, scientifically, it's not a theory; it's just somebody's idea. And
Yeah.
and two, if you go to the end stage, you get to the flat earthers who believe this is truly a flat earth.
Oh my goodness. And that, okay, I didn't realize that was a relationship with this same material.
Oh, yes.
So it's the same body of material that they're looking at?
Not the same body, but it overlaps a lot. So there's
really, I did not know that.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
There's continuous overlap.
Okay, and not everybody who identifies as a Gnostic believes this, okay? Like, because I know that there's some people that's not what they're about at all. But yes, I do know about a % of the population that is like woo-woo and just, you know, absolutely, you know, this is happening, that's happening, and we're ascending. And I think we are ascending, but not because of why they say we're ascending. Like, they're saying we're ascending because, you know, like their beings are telling them in their ears that we're ascending. I think we're ascending because of Earth cycles and, like, you know, the history of the Earth, and we're going back to a particular cycle. And, you know, it's science more than it's, you know, channeling or something for me.
Right. Yeah.
But and I don't think we're going to know what it looks like, because we've never been in this place in history before. It's going to look different than it did last time we were in this cycle. This is just like astrology. Astrology doesn't really repeat itself, but it rhymes. And I think that there is places where we're going to be rhyming, i.e. ascending, but we don't know what that looks like. Okay. And I think that everybody needs to, like, not be invested in what that is going to look like and listening to beings about what that's going to look like. I think we need to be more open-minded about how that's going to work. But it is totally true that the Schumann resonance is rising. It's totally true that we have, like, you know, the solar cycle, we have like some of the largest solar flares again, you know. It's true that we have a lot of astrology changing, you know, Pluto going into Aquarius, you know, some other things like that. So, and then also, like, if we look at the grand scale of the cycle with the Earth, you know, the 24 to 26,000 year cycle, there's places in those cycles that, and we were not alive then. So we, you know, like maybe in different lifetimes or whatever, but even then, it's not objective. We have filters. We can't see, like, what the truth was. We can kind of pick apart, you know, some things that happened in history, but even his story, I mean, like, we're talking still, it's a story, and like there's very little factual that's left over because of invasions and because of, like, lots of different things. So
I get just to go back a little bit, because what you just said I don't have any problem with, but what I was talking about earlier, the whole conspiracy theory, there's overlap with Gnosticism, and like you say, not all Gnostics are into that. But the problem with conspiracy thinking is it tends to feed on itself, and at the very bottom, like a terrible monster, is the flat earther who denies everything and makes shit up because they think it sounds good, you know.
Well, there was some stuff that was going around about, I don't know, it was almost 20 years ago, that was like one of those kinds of, like, you know, this paper is the truth, and I forget the name of it now, but it was like, and it had a lot of historic truth in it. And then at the end, they're like, we all need to live in the ocean in pods under, like, I'm going, oh my, like, they just, like, we're like on this track, and then they just kind of flew into a different, and I'm like, okay, that's going to go away. Like, this will never take ground, because they literally did like a sharp turn into weirdness.
But have you noticed one thing in common with all of these different conspiracy theories? They basically appeal to people's sense of wanting to belong to an inner group who knows stuff versus the lost sheep who don't know anything.
That is like with pagans. That is like with Christians. That is like with. I'm sorry, I could say every group is like that. It gives them like this false sense of identity and a false sense of pride, that
But
they are the know-it-all. And, oh, wait, last I heard, if you really are spiritual, you will realize you don't know shit. Okay.
Yeah, well, see, the reason that I'm saying that is because as an autistic person, I'm not socially oriented by definition. So
yeah, that's true.
So therefore, I can see through a lot of that bullshit. To me, it just looks like crap,
Yeah.
And they may, they may hold to it as if it's their last straw, which some of them are very, tend to cling to things, but I'm not a clingy person, so it's just not. It doesn't do anything
right.
for me. Let's put it like
well,
that.
and actually, I think that our gift, and I think all three of us would agree with this. I think all three of us have the tremendous gift, whether it was, that way naturally or whether we worked for it. I think that all three of us have independent thinking. We're
Right, exactly.
open-minded, but we're not going to buy into just everything.
Right.
It has to have a reason. So, and on that note, that's the purpose of this particular video, wherein this is designed not to prove the theory, but to open our mind and realize, oh, wait, there's other resonances that are proven in history that have an application here. So it's not impossible. In other words, it might even be very probable.
Right.
And again, we leave you, the viewer, the reader, to your own devices, because we appreciate independent processing and thought.
Right, and that's why I called it shamanic resonance, because what I built was a framework to allow people, when they view the various examples and the arguments I put forward, to say, maybe this actually is or could be possible. So that's the idea.
Yeah, I realize that. Dekindre, I think you were trying to say something. Did you want to say something about our independent thought?
No, I was just going to agree that, this video is more about looking at things with open minds, as with any of them, oftentimes the videos that we present.
But boy, Dave does such a really good job of opening our mind. So without further ado, Dave, let's take it away.
Okay,
I'll get to the article, and I'll scroll down, and so we're going to look and see this photo.
One thing I wanted to ask you is because there are actually 26 topics. If you were to count them all up, I did it using some Linux tools to basically to make a real fast list. But there's 26 topics, so that's going to be a lot of reading. Should we switch off between the main topics, or how do you?
What we should do, something like that, wherein and what we could do is take turns reading, we could even go back and forth, with, each heading or something too. If you would like to break it up a little bit more.
Yeah, actually, I can give you the main headings here. I can put them in Facebook Messenger chat if you want, so you'll have.
Because I can't see them when I enlarged the screen.
Okay. All right.
See, I think that they're over here on the. Oh no, they're not. Hang on a second. I may have to.
If you go to the paper, there should be an expand all at the on the left hand side, and
maybe this is what it is. Okay, because there's a little dot here, and I don't know what it's for. Okay.
If you go to the extreme left and up, there should be a list of topics there, all the way to the left. I don't know why yours is not showing up exactly.
It's not. And maybe that's okay. Because I am sharing it in StreamYard, so there is a bar that dropped down, and so that might be hiding it, and I can't go up any higher.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be the reason. You know what? We'll just do it this way, and we'll be cued by the actual bolding of the new topics. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
And we'll just do it that way. Okay.
Right.
And if it gets too late, we'll make a part 2. And we'll just do a part 2. That's all we can do. Meanwhile, wait, before we start, let's see if there's anybody in the chat. No, not yet. Okay. So, and it's fine. You guys can all watch this on replay. There is 3 people watching it according to StreamYard. So whoever you are, hi, how are you doing? We appreciate you being here. So maybe they can't, for whatever reason, comment in the live chat. Okay, and that's fine. So, all right. We're at the Tolkien photo, which is JRR Tolkien and his study
circa 1937.
1937. So, and then this is the source, which is the Tolkien Bodleian Library, I believe.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah.
And then
all right.
I'll start reading.
Okay. Okay.
Language in J.R.R. Tolkien's Legendarium is more than a storytelling device. It becomes part of the mythological and spiritual fabric that binds his world. While Tolkien's approach was grounded in philology, his study of language was infused with a mythopoetic quality, where languages are more than sounds of words, but are sacred bridges between the mortal and the divine. This brings us to a shamanic resonance in Tolkien's work, the way in which language becomes the key to unlocking deeper, often spiritual dimensions of existence. In this essay, we explore the shamanic resonance of language in Tolkien's works, focusing on how his languages echo ancient traditions. Many indigenous cultures view language not just as a means of communication, but as a sacred act, a cosmic force. Tolkien, who deeply understood myth and religion, created languages that resonate with this vision. His linguistic creations serve as bridges between realms, between the mortal and the divine. In exploring Tolkien's linguistic creativity through neurotheology and shamanic cognition, we come closer to understanding how his process echoes ancient beliefs that language was a divine gift, passed from the spiritual realm to humanity. And then I put in parentheses, see our complimentary video and article on Tolkien and shamanism, the approach via the way of artist lore.
And this is also linked in the description of this video, so it's the same link. Okay. So sacred languages in shamanic cultures. Language in many shamanic cultures is a sacred act, not just a means to communicate, but to commune with the divine. This belief is prevalent across numerous indigenous traditions, where words carry the very essence of the universe, the life force of the cosmos. Wow, doesn't that sound kind of like the Ainulindalë?
Yeah, exactly.
Such traditions are not confined to one culture across the world. We see echoes of the same idea, language as sacred creation. Below are several examples that emphasize this shamanic resonance, and I'll go ahead and do the Lakota one, and then Dick and Dre can pick up the next one. Okay. So the sacred role in language and Lakota spirituality. And this is a beautiful this is amazing, of white buffalo calf woman. And I love the art in the background is very much a portal between the
I actually counted them. There are, if you count there are 3 in the quadrant of a circle, which means that there's 12. 3 times 4 is 12. That means it's obviously a month sort of thing.
Yeah.
If you were able to see the whole circle.
Yes, that would be the case, because you could see the top 6.
Right.
Definitely, and that's very zodiacal, and there's a lot definitely resonating with that. Okay, white buffalo calf woman. In Lakota spirituality, language is more than a practical tool for communication. Each word is believed to carry a sacred resonance, the vibration of life itself. When spoken in rituals, these words connect the speaker to the spirit world, facilitating communion with ancestors and guiding spirits. Lakota shamans, or medicine people, use songs and chants to invoke the presence of Wakantanka, the Great Spirit. These chants, much like Tolkien's Elvish languages, serve as bridges to the divine realms. Wakantanka, often translated as Great Spirit or Great Mystery, represents the supreme being and the source of all creation, encompassing humans, animals, plants, spirits, and the elements, reflecting the interconnectedness of all things. While Wakantanka is not explicitly said to have bestowed language upon the Lakota, the people view language as sacred, a crucial vessel for passing down spiritual beliefs and cultural narratives. In ceremonies and songs, there are references to a sacred language used by holy men, sometimes called the language of Wakantanka. This language is believed to resonate with all living things, suggesting it holds a divine essence. In Lakota spiritual practice, the significance of language is further emphasized through its role in sacred rituals, such as the use of the sacred pipe. This pipe, considered a divine gift from Wakantanka, is associated with the messenger white buffalo calf woman. Through the use of the language in rituals, the Lakota tradition bridges the human and divine realms, underscoring its importance as a means of spiritual expression. So, who wants to pick up the language in Amazonian shamanic practices?
I'll pick that one up.
Awesome.
So, language in Amazonian shamanic practices.
And that's Ikaros.
Ikaros. A similar view of language as a conduit for divine communication exists in many other indigenous cultures. For example, in Amazonian shamanic practices, sacred songs known as Ikaros play an integral role in spiritual work. These songs, used in rituals involving plant medicines like ayahuasca, allow the shaman to communicate with spirits, guide participants' visions, and facilitate healing. Each Amazonian ethnic group has its own terms for these magical songs.
I believe it's pronounced.
I think that this is pronounced Waichipaire.
Yeah, Waichipaire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Call them the
Eshuva. Yeah.
The
Piaroa.
Yeah.
Piaroa.
Piaroa. Okay, I didn't know
Piaroa.
that. I thought it would be Piaroa.
Use
Meye.
and
the Shipipo.
And the Shipipo refer to them.
Shipido. Yeah. Shipibo. Yeah.
Shipibo. As refer to them as
Rao Bewa?
Oh, yeah, Rao Bewa. Yeah.
Okay. These songs embody spiritual significance and are often regarded as gifts from the creator. In these traditions, the sounds and words used in sacred songs are believed to possess inherent power, capable of healing, invoking spirits, or transforming reality. This reflects the belief that language transcends ordinary understanding, acting as a gateway to the spiritual realm.
Awesome. Brilliant. And so now we are on the topic, and we're popping around the world all over here. The Norse mythology and the power of runes, a pre-Christian tradition. Dave, did you want to?
Yeah. Do you want me to read that?
Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, and then I just wanted to show a frame with all of these great runes, though, because this is awesome. So the Elder Futhark, and of course, all of you who are watching the video, you can use the link in the description in order to read this entire article, and you can look at the entire photo within the frame of your screen if that's what you would prefer to do. So that's completely fine.
And the reason why it's called Futhark, if you look on the left-hand side, you'll see that Fehu starts with an F, and then the next one, Uru, starts with an U, and then a THARK. So that's
That's
why they're called
correct.
Futhark.
Yes.
Anyway,
Yep.
I'll start. Norse mythology and the power of runes, a pre-Christian tradition. In Norse mythology, the Old Norse language was deeply intertwined with spirituality and magic, serving as a vital medium for connecting with the divine. Spoken and sung in rituals, Old Norse carried the power to invoke natural forces, gods, and mysteries of the cosmos. One of the most significant expressions of this power was through Galdir, a form of incantation where practitioners chanted sacred words to achieve specific outcomes, such as protection or healing. The language itself was considered a tool that could shape reality, reflecting a Norse belief in the mystical potency of spoken words. The Old Norse language also found expression in the sacred symbols of the runes, particularly the Elder Futhark, an early alphabet that held divine power. Runes were believed to influence fate and were used by the Norns, goddesses of destiny, to weave the threads of life. Inscribing words in runes was a form of communication with the spiritual world, granting access to hidden knowledge and the ability to alter destiny. This connection between Old Norse, runes, and the divine reveals how language in Norse culture was more than a tool of communication. It was a sacred force, shaping both the physical and spiritual realms.
Yeah, and I believe later in the paper, when you picked this topic up again, you did talk about how Odin, which was one of their deities, was the one hung on the world tree and got inspired by the symbols. And so that's how the runes came into being. So it's literally in their own mythology, it is a spiritual source.
Yeah, see, what I did was I split this into several sections, and this first section basically describes how language was used, and the next more detailed section will go over the same cultures, but that's the language imparted by spiritual beings section, so that goes into more detail about those beliefs.
Yeah, so the next section would be Sanskrit and Devanagari, a gateway to the divine. So I will read this. This is part of the Isha Upanishad.
Got it.
And I forgot how to say that, so I'll do my best here.
It's Upanishad, I think. I looked up how do you
Upanishad.
Say it online.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In Vedic and later Hindu traditions, Sanskrit, often referred to as the language of the gods, holds a central role as a sacred medium connecting humans with the divine. Rooted in ancient India, it is believed to carry the vibrational essence of creation itself. Devanagari, the script in which Sanskrit is most commonly written, emerged from the Brahmi alphabet, symbolizing not just written language, but also the unfolding of divine knowledge, much like the Norse runes. The letters of Devanagari are seen as more than mere symbols. They are a sacred link between the spiritual and the physical worlds, embodying the creative energy of the cosmos. In many rituals, the precise intonation of Sanskrit mantras is believed to invoke cosmic forces and align the speaker with universal truths. Okay. Do you want me to keep going? I can do the Zoroastrianism one as well.
Sure.
Okay. Avestan language and Zoroastrianism. And this is a fragment, of the Avesta. And that's beautiful, actually. The Avestan language used in Zoroastrian liturgy reflects the spiritual and cosmological principles of this ancient religion. The Avesta, Zoroastrianism's holy text, contains hymns and prayers that connect believers with the divine. In Zoroastrianism, the use of sacred language reinforces the cosmic duality of good and evil, light and darkness. The Avestan language is considered a creation of Ahura Mazda, the supreme deity, and is closely tied with the concept of Asha, representing truth and righteousness. Reciting Avestan texts is not merely a ritual. It invokes spiritual forces, protects the community, and fosters harmony with the cosmos, demonstrating the powerful connection between language and spirituality in Zoroastrian belief. And Dekindre, I think I'll have you pick up the Hebrew language and Kabbalistic mysticism.
Hebrew language and Kabbalistic mysticism. So we have a picture of the Hebrew alphabet. Okay. And then within the mystical framework of Kabbalah, the Hebrew language holds a sacred status far beyond its function as a communicative tool. Hebrew is often seen as a divine language where each letter carries profound spiritual meaning. The Hebrew alphabet comprises 22 letters, each of which represents not only a sound, but also a concept and numerical value. This numerical aspect is critical in Kabbalistic practices like gematria, which uses numerical values to uncover hidden meanings within words. In the book of Genesis, the act of creation is achieved through divine speech, as seen when God says, "Let there be light," and the light comes into being. This illustrates the Kabbalistic belief in the creative power of words and their ability to manifest reality. In this tradition, naming is viewed as a creative act, and language serves as a medium through which relationships with the divine are formed. The Hebrew practice of prayer emphasizes the importance of both intention and purity of speech. Prayers chanted or recited in Hebrew are believed to carry spiritual weight, aligning the worshiper with the divine and invoking blessings and healing. This highlights the view of sacred language as a channel to the divine, much like the language of ancient shamanic traditions.
And now I'll do the next one.
And you'll be taking over the Tolkien's languages as sacred tools, a reflection of ancient mysticism, which I think is beautifully. So we're building a nice case here, I think.
Yeah, that's why I wrote it that way. So
yeah. So here's a piece of Tengwar that.
Now this is an artistic rendering of Galadriel's lament in the. I don't know how any movies were structured. Lisa may know more about that, but in the actual Lord of the Rings books, when the Fellowship leaves Lorien, they're on the River Silverlode, which flows into the River Anduin, and they see Galadriel standing on kind of like a little island with a little hillock on it, and she begins singing. And this is actually they're in Tengwar, and it's in the Quenya language, and that it's referred to as either Namari or Galadriel's lament in Lorien. It's referred to by both
Namadi.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's that, and the source, if you want to know where that comes from all these things that aren't just like alphabets and things, you can click on the source in each of these images, and it'll show you where I got it.
Yeah, so each of these are linked. All of the words that are purple, you can actually, there's a link somewhere to it, right, so that it describes that. So, yeah.
Okay, I'll continue. Tolkien created languages that carry the same spiritual weight. His imaginal languages, and I have that word hyperlinked because it's a word that's not common, so you can click on that. His imaginal languages, such as Quenya and Sindarin, resonate deeply with the sacred languages of ancient shamanic and mystical traditions. In the Silmarillion, language itself is given divine origins, crafted and greatly inspired by the Valar, the godlike beings who shape Middle-earth. The Elvish languages, in particular, hold a special significance, being closest to the pure, original language of creation before it was fragmented by the fall of Morgoth. Much like the sacred songs of the Amazonian shamans, the runes of Norse mythology, and the Hebrew Kabbalistic tradition, Tolkien's languages transcend their functional role. They become vessels of myth, cosmology, and divine connection. Quenya and Sindarin, in Tolkien's world, function not only as means of communication, but as powerful conduits for expressing the sacred relationship between beings, the cosmos, and the divine. The resonance between Tolkien's languages and ancient spiritual languages underscores the profound role that sacred language plays in bridging the seen and unseen worlds. Through these imaginal languages, Tolkien evokes the same spiritual reverence seen in traditions like Zoroastrianism, where the Avestan tongue aligns one with cosmic order, or in the Norse use of runes to access mystical power. His creation of languages as sacred acts mirrors the ancient belief that language shapes reality, aligning beings with higher forces. Whether in the prayers of Avestan priests, the songs of shamanic healers, or the invocations of Galdir, Tolkien's constructed languages evoke an enduring truth, that language is the means by which humans have always sought to touch the divine.
Okay, so I think we've had a really great overview so far of like just the historical aspect of these languages, all reporting spiritual sources, and in some interpretations of what Tolkien had said, I think that it's easy to also believe that this was a process for him as well.
Exactly.
In that we talked about this in the prior video where he, 13 times had said, I found it, or it came to me. Like, this isn't something I made up, right? So now we're going to go into another area of this, which Dave has I didn't even know that he could do this. This was so amazing. The neurotheology and Tolkien's linguistic creation. So we're gonna discover a different area now. So get ready. Dave, did you want to continue, or did you want to switch
on? Yeah.
Okay,
I can,
brilliant.
I know the background of this, so I can,
That's what I was thinking.
Right.
It was like, okay. I think that this should be Dave's too.
Yeah.
So
neurotheology and Tolkien's linguistic creation. And there's an image there, and what it actually is it's an image of the brain under two different brain centers are being imaged. The first one is the language center, and the other one is the orientation area. And there's a baseline scan there where they're just listening or not really doing anything, and then one where they're praying. And the pattern of brain activity changes. It's visible using these radioactive glucose basically, and it shows the brain uses more glucose than any other organ in the body, and it needs a lot of it to keep you conscious.
Right.
So that's what it's doing. The different areas are activating or spinning down, and that's why the patterns change when you're praying or
I see.
Just looking at stuff.
Wow. And it looks like the language area is more open during praying versus regular activity.
Right.
And the orientation, which is your consciousness, like kind of figuring out where you are, dials back.
Right.
When you're in a prayer. Wow.
Exactly.
This is really cool. I didn't know that they had scientific proof of this.
And when the term underneath it, neurotheological imaging, that's hyperlinked. So if a person is interested and they click that, they'll be taken to a whole article that explains what it shows those images. It shows many other ones. It explains how they do it and what it means. So that's
wow.
Interesting there.
Very cool. We love that. Okay, let's dig into this new area. This is awesome.
Neurotheology examines a connection between spiritual experiences and brain function, shedding light on how practices such as the use of sacred language can alter consciousness. This resonates with JRR Tolkien's linguistic creativity, or words are more than mere symbols, they serve as gateways to altered states of consciousness. His Elvish languages, particularly Quenya, embody this concept of linguistic magic, which is deeply rooted in many mythologies and spiritual traditions, as we've already seen earlier. Tolkien's approach to language and myth reveals a profound synergy between his creative processes and the shamanic view of language as a tool for spiritual transformation.
That is so brilliant. I'm going to pause for a moment, and I'll go ahead and take the next section, but I did want to, at some point, say that this might be the actual phenomenon that people really crave when they want to learn Elvish. I think that their desire to learn Elvish isn't necessarily to go around and day to day speak Elvish, but it is to do ritual and open these cosmic like portals to the other other world.
And you know,
yeah.
it was only very recently, in fact, in drafting this paper, this article, that I got somewhat of, because as people who know anything about me, I'm not linguistically oriented, but this was my area of research, so I had to do it.
Right.
It was a self-imposed burden, but I did it because I wanted to find out more. And doing this research, that was the insight that I had, that when people say they want to learn Elvish, they sense something in Tolkien's works and in the Elvish languages that makes them want to learn more. And I think neurologically, if we were to image their brain, that's what's happening.
I wonder if the same thing. Exactly. And it makes me realize that at some point we will need, at some point, either one of us to learn the linguistics, or, a person that, wants to be involved with us that has already been learning the linguistics to perhaps integrate Elvish more into our prayers and our rituals. Than what we currently have. Currently, and if any of you don't know, but you can easily search our channel and watch some of our videos, we do intone the directions. We do talk to the Valar. We intone also the Starflower, so that there is like resonance, so that we can tune in on these areas. It would be awesome if we could further create a Quenya Elvish, incantation, towards Varda Elantari, let's say, the Queen of the Stars, and welcoming her into the area. And I do think that that might be a project for the future, to broaden and to enhance, or really actually deepen the ritual process for people, because apparently it's not just, I guess, a thought of wow, it's so ethereal and beautiful. It actually is transcending people. It actually is, putting them in a higher state, a higher vibration. So I think that that's a really good thing. I do. Tolkien and shamanic cognition. A key element linking Tolkien's linguistic creation to shamanic traditions is the concept of shamanic cognition, or the ability to access altered states of consciousness to perceive spiritual truths. In shamanic cultures, shamans act as mediators between the physical and the spiritual realms, often entering trance states to communicate with the spirits, gain wisdom, or to heal. Tolkien's creative process, as revealed in his letters, and maybe we should hyperlink that and do letters of JRR Tolkien,
I could do that. I'll make a note. Yeah.
Carry a sense of revelation. He often described, quote, discovering rather than, quote, inventing his stories and languages, suggesting that they emerged through a process akin to shamanic insight. For instance, a letter to a fan, Tolkien wrote, "I have long ceased to invent. I wait till I seem to know what really happened, or until it writes itself." And so that is like a receptive mode if you are in an altered state.
Exactly.
Okay? Altered state through meditation, through astral projection, astral travel, whatever his method was to do that, put him in that place where he could receive the information and brilliantly can remember it when he is out of that state so that he could write it down as fast as he could. This implies that his stories and languages were not consciously constructed, but discovered through a deeper mystical process, positioning Tolkien as a literary shaman. That's a bard, by the way.
Yeah.
A literary shaman who tapped into mythic archetypes and cosmic truths through his imagination. This connection can be further explored through neurotheology, a field that studies the biological basis of religious and mystical experiences. Neurotheology suggests that certain altered states of consciousness can lead to profound spiritual insights, often experienced as revelations from a higher power. Tolkien's descriptions of his creative process align with these findings, indicating that he may have accessed these deep cognitive states during his writing. For Tolkien, language was more than a communication tool. It was a means of accessing and expressing deeper spiritual truths. His languages, imbued with a sense of sacredness and mythic resonance, mirrored the role of sacred languages in shamanic traditions. Just as shamans use language to communicate with the spirit world and access divine knowledge, Tolkien's imaginal languages allowed him to explore and express the spiritual truths of this or his mythological world. In neurotheological terms, Tolkien's linguistic revelations likely emerged from the same altered mental states that brought forth his rich narrative world. These states enabled him to tap into deep-seated archetypes and cosmological structures reflecting the spiritual truths found in ancient languages like Sanskrit, Hebrew, and Avestan. Thus, his creation of Elvish languages became a modern reflection of the spiritual and shamanic processes attributed to divine intervention in ancient cultures. So who wants to do the language imparted by non-corporeal beings along with the Lakota sacred language passage?
I can do it, or Dekindra can do it, and then I can do the Amazonian shamanism. Okay.
Awesome.
I can do this one. So,
Okay.
Awesome.
Language imparted by non-corporeal beings. In many spiritual traditions, language is considered more than a human construct. It is often viewed as a sacred gift from non-corporeal beings, such as beings, spirits, or deities. The languages are believed to carry inherent spiritual power, bridging the gap between the human world and the divine. Lakota sacred language. Among the Lakota, the sacred language used in ceremonies, prayers, and songs is considered the language of Wakantanka, or the Great Spirit. This language is believed to resonate not only with humans, but with all living beings, as it embodies a divine essence that transcends ordinary speech. According to George Sword,
Oglala.
Right.
Oglala, Lakota spiritual leader, the young people do not understand the meaning of any words in the holy language. The holy language is used by the holy men in holy songs and ceremonies. This is the language of Wakantanka. All animals understand this language. This statement reflects the belief that the sacred language speaks not only to humans, but to the entire natural world, emphasizing its universal and spiritual reach. It is through this sacred language that Lakota spiritual leaders are able to connect with the spiritual world, invoking the presence of non-corporeal beings for guidance, protection, and healing. The use of this language in rituals is seen as a direct means of communicating with the divine, ensuring that the community remains in harmony with both the natural and spiritual realms. The spoken words are viewed as living expressions of the Great Spirit, carrying power and sacred significance far beyond human comprehension.
Now,
Okay,
if you
oh,
want,
go ahead.
Lisa, I can read the next two because the Amazonian shamanism one is short, so I can
Okay,
read that.
sure.
Okay. Amazonian shamanism. In Amazonian shamanism, sacred Icaros, mystical songs used during healing rituals, are considered to be gifts from plant spirits. These songs are not learned in the conventional sense, but are imparted to shamans during altered states of consciousness, often induced by ayahuasca, a powerful plant medicine. During these spiritual journeys, shamans receive the melodies, rhythms, and sounds directly from the plant spirits, with each Icaro carrying its own unique power. These sacred songs are used to heal, summon protective spirits, ward off negative energies, and even shape the reality of those present. The belief that these songs come from a divine source highlights the shaman's role as a mediator between the human world and the spiritual world, reinforcing the notion of language as a conduit for divine transmission and transformation. And
I'm going to make an observation
okay.
here also, wherein definitely there is an element of sacredness in the stories with the elves and the plant kingdom, particularly trees, but the plants are very revered as well. And I just think that that's an interesting correlation also.
Yeah, they even had separate words for for Olvar and Kelvar for plants
Yeah.
and animals. Yeah. So
right. And as far as the plants creating their miracle substances like Miruvor or
right.
Limbos or we don't really see that with the animal sourced things. I mean, we knew
Right.
that they potentially hunted, but we see, and then what about Alphalos, the plant that heals like deeply? They know how to
Exactly.
talk to
Yeah.
plants. They know how to talk to
Good point.
trees. Yeah.
Good point. Yeah.
So it tells me that Tolkien even understood the trees and the plants. They're older than we are, therefore have more of the original imprint of spirit in their song, and therefore I could even see resonance of like where in the Amazonian, like practice, that they allow the plants to sing to them and teach them their song, and then they can sing the song once they learn it. It sounds very Elven to me, is where I'm going. So
in fact,
we didn't even talk about that, but that's very interesting that I'm noticing it now, like while we're reading it on the air. So
in fact, there's even a book. It was published relatively recently, I think in 2020 or 2021. Basically, it was written pre-COVID, but it was published during COVID, and probably didn't get as much sales because of that, or maybe, I don't know, maybe it was the opposite. But anyway, it's interesting because it was written by two botanists. I think it was a husband and wife botanist team, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And it basically, they used the knowledge of a botanist to go through Tolkien's Legendarium and make botanical and biological descriptions of what all these plants mentioned probably were. So, and the ones that don't exist right now, like Telperion and Lorien, they did give a botanical explanation of how such a thing could be feasible. So it's a really
Wow,
interesting
that's
book.
cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Pardon me, do I read the Norse mythology? I can't remember.
I was going to read that because
you'll read it. Okay.
Yeah, the Amazonian
Okay.
shamanism was short. Okay.
Okay.
Norse mythology. In Norse mythology, the origin of magical language is rooted in the spirit realm, where supernatural powers dwell. The story of Odin, the Allfather and chief of the gods, illustrates this connection. According to the Poetic Edda, Odin sacrificed himself by hanging from the world tree, Yggdrasil, for 9 days and nights. Through his self-imposed ordeal, he accessed the realm of the dead and gained a knowledge of the runes, mystical symbols imbued with cosmic power. These runes were believed to hold the secrets of the universe and allow the users to connect with divine forces. Odin's discovery of the runes underscores the Norse belief that powerful forms of language, such as runic magic, originate from beyond the human world. The runes were not invented by mortals, but were revealed to Odin in the spiritual realm, where he seized their power and internalized their wisdom. His sacrifice highlights the importance of seeking knowledge from non-physical sources, a key aspect of Norse spirituality. The magical language of the runes bestowed upon Odin became the foundation of his mastery over magic, poetry, and war. Central to this magic was the practice of Galdir, a form of chanting or intoning sacred spells and runes to invoke their power. Galdir was believed to activate the mystical properties of the runes, bridging the gap between the physical and spiritual worlds. This practice demonstrates how deeply language, sound, and magic were intertwined in Norse tradition. Odin's sacrifice and mastery of the runes in Galdir continued to fascinate scholars and enthusiasts alike, offering a glimpse into the profound connection between language, magic, and spirituality in Norse culture.
And language, magic, and spirituality
Right.
can be said that about Elvish culture within
Exactly.
the works of Tolkien and the Legendarium. So Sanskrit and the celestial gift of language. In Hindu mythology, language is often regarded as a divine gift bestowed upon humanity by celestial beings. Sanskrit, known as Devavani, or the language of the gods, was not seen as a mere human creation, but as a sacred revelation granted to ancient sages, which were called rishis. Through deep meditation, these sages, who were considered vessels of divine knowledge, received Sanskrit as a sacred tool to communicate with higher planes of existence. In the tradition of Shabda Brahman, which holds the sound is the ultimate reality, Sanskrit is viewed as the purest earthly expression of the cosmic sound. This meticulous pronunciation of Sanskrit mantras is believed to invoke spiritual power, with each syllable resonating with the vibrations of creation and cosmic truth. The Devanagari script, which Sanskrit is most often written, mirrors this divine essence in its graceful, structured form. Devanagari's flowing curves and symmetrical lines are not merely aesthetic choices, but are believed to reflect the sacred order of the universe, where each letter carries an inherent vibrational power. Each syllable and letter is thought to align the speaker with cosmic energies, making Devanagari not just a vehicle for written communication, but a sacred visual and auditory bridge to the divine. This view of language where the written form itself is imbued with sacred meaning, echoes similar ideas found in other traditions. Sanskrit, with its deep roots in the Hindu cosmology, serves as an archetype of divine language. More than a linguistic system, it is a tool for unlocking spiritual wisdom and cosmic harmony. And I would even go to say that, you know, Hebrew letters do the same thing, you know,
Right.
like for their culture. So we keep bouncing back and forth. And now we are on Zoroastrianism. Dekindre, did you want to take over?
Sure. Zoroastrianism. In Zoroastrianism, the
Avestan.
Avestan language is considered a divine gift from Ahura Mazda, the supreme god of the faith. It holds a central place in Zoroastrian theology as a language of power and sacredness, used primarily in the holy texts of the Avesta. According to Zoroastrian belief, Avestan was not simply developed by human beings, but was given by Ahura Mazda as a means of maintaining cosmic order. The language serves as a crucial tool in religious rituals, prayers, and invocations, allowing followers to access spiritual forces that protect both individuals and the community at large. Avestan is believed to be imbued with a sacred energy that helps uphold the principles of Asha, truth and righteousness, aligning humanity with the divine will. The spoken words of Avestan hold particular importance as they are thought to directly influence the spiritual realm. In Zoroastrian rituals, the proper recitation of Avestan prayers is believed to reinforce the cosmic balance between good and evil, a fundamental tenet of the religion. By using Avestan in their prayers and ceremonies, practitioners actively contribute to the ongoing struggle against Angra.
I think it's Angra Mainyu.
Angra Mainyu.
I think you're right.
The destructive spirit, and help sustain the forces of good. Thus, Avestan is not just a tool for communication, but a potent spiritual instrument that carries the power to impact the moral and cosmic order, ensuring the preservation of righteousness in both the physical and spiritual worlds.
Now, do you want me to read both? So the Hebrew tradition is short. Do you want me to read
Sure,
both?
if you'd like. Yeah.
Okay.
And then are you going to read the Tolkien's Legendarium part 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No problem.
Hebrew tradition. In Hebrew tradition, especially within the mystical teachings of Kabbalah, the Hebrew language is imbued with profound spiritual significance. Each letter of the Hebrew alphabet is thought to carry unique spiritual energy, and when combined into words, they form a creative force that shapes and influences reality. This view is rooted in the belief that Hebrew is the language of creation itself, as described in the book of Genesis, where God spoke the world into existence. Through the use of Hebrew words in prayer and meditation, believers are able to connect with the divine, unlocking blessings, healing, and transformative power. The language serves as a bridge between the material and spiritual realms, enabling those who use it to participate in the ongoing process of creation and divine influence, which I think is kind of cool. That statement. Tolkien's Legendarium. The concept of divine linguistic origin finds a strong parallel in Tolkien's Legendarium, where languages like Quenya and Sindarin are imbued with sacredness. The Eldar, after developing their original primal languages, refined them through continual contact with the Valar, the godlike beings who shaped Tolkien's world. These Elvish languages resonate with the pure original language of creation, reflecting its divine harmony before it was fragmented by Morgoth's fall. More than mere tools for communication, Tolkien's languages embody the cosmic order. much like the sacred languages of mythic and shamanic traditions. A key aspect of this divine connection is reflected in Tolkien's Sarati script, the writing system attributed to Rumel, and that's a picture of what they
And
look
this
like.
is what we were talking about when we say that Sanskrit, the style of writing with Sanskrit is similar to the Tengwar set that, or Sarati is actually the name, like Tengwar is the other letters. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Sarati is a special, or is it a type
within,
of Tengwar? Do you know?
well, it was actually the first written letter system, the first alphabet expressive
Wow.
system.
And that's even very interesting, thinking that there's a lot of similarity between the first writing system. Wow.
What this is the first Elven writing system,
Amazing.
and what happened was a sage named Rumil invented it, and then it was used for a very long time, thousands of years, and then Feanor, when he was younger, before he had made the Silmarils, he became very interested in language, but being kind of, the arrogant person that he was, he said, "Oh, these Sarati are all well and good, but I bet I could create a better system," and that's how the
Well, and he
Tengwar
was a
came about.
magician, like he made the
Right,
Silmarils. So, I mean,
right,
I guess I
right.
could see where, yeah,
And the making of the Tengwar actually was one of his first big creative acts. I'm sure he had minor ones when he was like the Elven version of a teenager growing up that we don't hear about, but this was the
yeah.
first main thing that he did was inventing
Wow.
the Tengwar. So
I mean, that even, like, just even that subset right there, knowing that Sarati was the first writing system, and it was, later, in like where Feanor, who, like we definitely know him from the stories,
mhm.
very, very brilliant, very amazing, but yeah, a little bit on the egoic side. And
Right.
yeah, definitely. And that I think was, his, it's who he was. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Right.
I'm not, I'm not a person that's like going to be hating on Feanor because he did make the Silmarils, but
True. Yeah.
there's some decisions that he made that were pretty bad. So, the Sarati and their use.
And
Who
that
who
shows
wants
you how
to
to
do
use
it?
it.
You want to do this?
Yeah. I'll do it.
Okay,
Um,
awesome.
Originally, Sarati was written from right to left, or in other words, the opposite of the way we write. Or in Brostophaedon, that means alternating directions with each line, starting at the right. So they go if they were writing horizontally, they go all the way across, and then they drop down a line and then write the other way, and then drop down a line and write the same way as they did the first line, so forth. So that is an actual way that some ancient languages were written. It's just that they're quite ancient. They're older than ancient Greek, for example. So
Wow.
it is a known system, but not very many languages now use it. It was more of an
Wow.
ancient thing. And then I go on. However, in books and cursive forms, it was more commonly written from top to bottom, beginning in the top right-hand corner, though horizontal right to left writing also occurred. This unique directionality adds to its mystical aura, paralleling the visual and spiritual significance of the Devanagari script. Like Devanagari, Sarati was not simply a practical tool, but a sacred script designed to evoke otherworldly beauty and connect the writer and the reader to deeper metaphysical realities. Tolkien's approach to language creation aligns with a shamanic or neurotheological understanding of cognition. And I'll go through this, use this little repetition of neurotheology. Neurotheology, which explores the biological basis of religious and spiritual experiences, suggests that altered states of consciousness, such as those experienced by shamans, can lead to profound insights or creative breakthroughs. Tolkien often described his creative process as one of revelation, claiming that his stories, languages, and mythologies were discovered rather than invented. His immersion in his Legendarium mirrors a shamanic journey into spiritual realms, where languages are encountered in heightened states of awareness. In this way, Quenya, Sindarin, and other languages in Tolkien's world are not purely fictional constructs, but are channels for exploring universal spiritual truths. These truths resonate with the sacred languages of ancient tradition, where language is often viewed as a divine gift from non-human sources. Tolkien's linguistic revelations likely emerged from the same altered mental states that brought forth his rich narrative world. His creation of Elvish languages becomes a modern reflection of the spiritual and shamanic processes that ancient cultures attributed to divine intervention. Now we go into the next main topic, chanting and singing as a spirit language. Who wants
I can
to do
read that one.
Should I do
Okay.
this, or does Dekindre want to?
I've got it.
Okay, awesome.
Chanting and singing as a spirit language. Chanting and singing hold central roles in various shamanic traditions, serving as gateways to altered states of consciousness and deeper connections with the spiritual realm. These vocal practices are often regarded as forms of spirit language, allowing shamans to communicate with supernatural entities and call upon their help during rituals. The rhythmic and repetitive nature
Sorry, I was just enlarging it.
and repetitive nature of chanting creates a trance-like state, enabling practitioners to move beyond ordinary awareness and tap into higher spiritual insights. In many cultures, chants are considered sacred and are used with specific intentions, such as healing, protection, or guidance. A shaman's ability to adjust the pitch, tempo, and volume of a chant can enhance its potency, making it a powerful tool for manipulating spiritual energies. This practice closely mirrors the portrayal of music in Tolkien's The Silmarillion, where songs, particularly the Ainulindalë, are depicted as forces of creation integral to the fabric of existence. The field of cymatics further supports this idea by showing how sound vibrations can shape biological systems, pioneered by Dr. Hans Jenny. Cymatics explores the impact of sound on matter, demonstrating that certain frequencies can organize substances into geometric patterns that echo universal designs. For example, when Jenny exposed
lycopodium
powder to the sound of Om, a sacred syllable in Hindu and Buddhist traditions, the powder formed a circular pattern with a central point, symbolizing one of the traditional depictions of Om.
Okay, I'm typing up the cymatics video in the chat just for people that don't have access to the document yet. I'm going to put it in.
That video there is a documentary on cymatics and what it is and how it's only about 12 minutes long, but it's packed with a lot of material. So
yeah, I know it's fascinating that you can take sound and take sand and water and put it on a flat plate, and then as you vibrate a different sound for different vibrations, the sand like makes new pictures. And many of the pictures at certain pitches are things that you like see inside of churches in ancient times. Like they knew about this. I'm pretty sure. It's pretty amazing. So we'll go ahead and this is now in the comments in the live chat, and I may put it in the comments later, but it's also in the video and you can scroll down to it. So documentary on cymatics.
Research into the effects of shamanic music, particularly drumming, has revealed similar findings. Michael and Sandra Harner report that shamans often seek spiritual assistance before entering altered states, facilitated by sonic driving within the 4 to 7 hertz range, which aligns with
Okay.
Theta brainwave with theta brainwave activity, this driving force need to be up just a little. Whether from live drums, rattles, or recorded sounds, helps guide practitioners into non-ordinary reality.
I
And then there's a
apologize.
video
I scrolled
on
down too
Siberian.
quickly.
Then there's a video on Siberian shamanic drumming.
And I'm putting that in the chat right now.
And that's from an actual. It was recorded by an anthropologist of actual real Siberian shaman drumming. So you can hear what it really sounds like versus somebody's westernized, variant with cymbals and whatnot.
Oh, I see. So it was like even in their authentic instruments, etc.
Right.
Very cool. You're such a good researcher.
Mm.
And then here's another video. I'm gonna copy this.
Yeah, this one I found several years ago, and this is he's basically a musical teacher, but he also he started as a musical teacher, but he branched out into basically using sound therapy, using theta waves, and he just this one's a longer video. I think it's about like close to 30 minutes long, but he goes through the different frequencies, and you can actually, if you listen to it with earphones, you can actually feel the different rhythms and feel the different effects they're having on your brainwave activity.
Very good.
You either have to listen in a quiet room or with headphones, because if you have other things like a TV in the background, it's not going to do what it's supposed to do.
I see. So you kind of need more concentrated listening.
Right.
Okay.
In Tolkien's The Silmarillion, music is depicted as a cosmic force, a concept echoed in shamanic tradition where chanting and sound invoke spiritual energies. Modern research in cymatics and shamanic practices further illustrates how sound can influence both the physical and spiritual realms, underscoring its universal significance. Tolkien's Legendarium beautifully reflects the concept of divine linguistic origin. Languages like Quenya and Sindarin are imbued with sacredness, echoing the very act of creation. The Ainulindalë, the story of the world's birthing through music, underscores this. The Valar, Tolkien's godlike beings, sang the universe into existence, emphasizing the divine harmony that underpins all of his world. This harmony resonates in the languages of the Eldar, who through ongoing contact with the Valar refined their primal tongues, retaining the resonance of that original cosmic melody. This unbroken purity reflects the world before Morgoth's rebellion. Tolkien's approach to language creation aligns with a shamanic and neurotheological understanding of cognition. Neurotheology, which explores the biological basis of religious and spiritual experiences, suggests that altered states of consciousness, like those experienced by shamans, can lead to profound insights and creative breakthroughs. Tolkien often described his creative process as one of revelation, claiming his stories, languages, and mythologies were discovered rather than invented. His Legendarium mirrors the shamanic journey into spiritual realms, where languages are revealed in heightened states of awareness, serving as channels to universal truths.
Hang on a moment. Back in this paragraph where it talks about that the Valar, the Tolkien's godlike beings, sang the universe into existence. Mm-hmm. Dave, I'd like to update this area of this article to make that the Ainur sang it into existence.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll make
wherein the Valar came forward later after the singing in order to like steward this creation throughout the end of it.
Well, all the Valar were singing. It's just the
absolutely. I'm sure that they were the most invested of those that sang.
Right.
But this could be misleading to people that are not privy to that. So I'd like to
Right.
change this
Okay, I'll make
area of the document. And when I was reading it, I was scanning it. So hearing it out loud,
Right.
you know, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, we might want to change this part. So if
I'm
you could
making
put on
notes
your
of that.
notes to
Yeah.
like shift this part of
And
the
let's see,
Tolkien's
that's
Legendarium portion,
yeah, chanting and
so that
singing
it's
section.
changed to the
Okay.
Ainur
Right.
singing
Right.
the world into existence. And
Right.
you know, if you want to talk about the Valar too, that's fine.
Right.
But okay.
Yeah,
And
I'll
we'll
reword it.
change that, you guys. So when you guys hopefully read this, and if you're catching the replay, it'll be changed. So that's fine.
Can one of you guys take over? I apologize. I need to step away for a minute.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
What?
In this way, Quenya, Sindarin, and other Elvish tongues were not mere fictional constructs, but reflections of the divine order. Like ancient sacred languages believed to be gifts from the non-human sources, they embody the cosmic order. Tolkien's linguistic revelations likely emerged from the same altered mental states that shaped his rich narrative world. The human brain in such states can access deep-seated archetypes and cosmological structures. For Tolkien, these states allowed him to tap into the archetypal roots of language, roots that reflect the spiritual truths found in ancient languages like Sanskrit, Hebrew, and Avestan. His creation of Elvish languages thus becomes a modern reflection of the spiritual and shamanic processes that ancient cultures attributed to divine intervention. And here we have the language and the gap between the worlds, and this is a pretty fantastic map of and this is the Middle Earth, or
yeah, it's all of Arda. It's basically based on Tolkien's hand-drawn map.
Very interesting. Wow.
And then a map maker named Karen Wynne Fonstad, since she was a professional cartographer, she made a more detailed map from Tolkien's sketches. And then whoever this artist was in the source there, they took her basically they weren't exactly black and white, but they only had like three colors, and everything was basically the forests were just indicated by, you know, little pine trees shaped symbols and whatnot. So this artist took her map and then made this out of it. So
like made this more colorful and like actually kind of
Now it does go back to directly to Tolkien's first age artist sketches. So this is accurate. It's just that it's not a map drawn by him as such. It's an evolution of a map drawn by him, but sticking to the same boundary conditions, to use the mathematical term for it. So it isn't made up. It's doing as closely as possible the information he had in his own maps, and making it more comprehensible and pretty.
I see. Do you want me to continue?
If you want to, or if you want me to, I can read this section. Whatever you think.
Okay, I was looking into seeing how long it is, and it's fairly long. So I'll, I can do it. I'll just let you have the next one, and then I'll keep an eye to see when Dekindre comes back. Right. Okay. The language gap is one of the most intriguing mysteries surrounding the origins of human language. As linguist Daniel Everett notes, there is a striking divide between the linguistic abilities of humans and all other species. While animals communicate in various ways, their systems lack the complexity and flexibility of human language, which is distinguished by its use of symbols and compositional structure. Unlike animal communication, which is typically context dependent and non-compositional, Human language allows for a breakdown of messages into smaller, meaningful units. Stories into paragraphs, paragraphs into sentences, sentences into phrases, phrases into words. Each of these components contributes to a layered, intricate meaning that is unique to human communication. Some suggest this gap exists because humans are a fundamentally special species, while others propose that human language was divinely designed. However, evidence points to a more gradual development of language, shaped by cultural and cognitive evolution rather than a sudden leap. Early hominins, likely started with simpler communication systems similar to those of animals, and then gradually developed more complex forms of language. This slow incremental evolution, driven by increasing social complexity, cultural growth, and changes in human physiology and neurology, eventually led to a significant linguistic gap between humans and other species. JRR Tolkien's Legendarium reflects this concept of a language gap in various ways. The elves, being the closest to the divine, maintain the most refined and original forms of language, while the languages of men and other races evolve and fragment over time, moving further from those sacred origins. The dwarves, however, are an exception in that their language, Khuzdul, is said to have, quote, resisted change by their own will, unquote. This deliberate preservation of language contrasts with the broader mythological theme of linguistic decay, where human languages degrade over time. Nonetheless, not all mortal races experience this linguistic shift in the same way. In Tolkien's world, language serves both as a bridge to the divine and as a marker of limitations faced by mortals. And I'll pause here for a moment and just say that it's interesting that the dwarves are the exception, because even their own creation was an exception. The dwarves were not created by Eru Iluvatar or the songs. They were created by the Vala Ainulindalë the smith. And so it makes sense that, and the way that I talk about, he's the workaholic of the Valar, of all of Valar. I think he is a workaholic. Okay, he likes making things. He likes to tinker around. He's always busy. He's always doing stuff. And I think that it's very resonant of the beings that he made. And I think he wanted it to be long lasting. So therefore, the dwarves were very tough and very, if you will, fixed energy, very fixed people. So
well, and he also at the time that he made them, Melkor was still out roaming around in the rest of the world.
True.
So he wanted to make them tougher to endure the monsters and other creatures that Morgoth was sending out. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah. Yeah, because men didn't get such protection. That's for sure. Right. But we talked about that in other videos, particularly in the Ainulindalë videos that are free in our list. If you want to check it on our link tree, you guys, we did talk about how men, they kind of show up in the stories, and we just feel that it's a natural, if you will, devolution of the song, and therefore a devolution of the expression of that song, and therefore Eru's creation of men. I think that he, at that point, was what had gifted them the mortality, seeing the degradation and not wanting for them to suffer that degradation.
Right.
Because it's just, you know, it's cruel. Okay, so the gift of men being death, according to this, is it's just a different process of learning and a different experience where, you know, all the other beings have their own experiences of what they experience. And so all of the beings, though, even the beings that Ainulindalë created, the dwarves, according to Tolkien and according to the Legendarium, they are all equal in the eyes of Iluvatar, meaning Eru Iluvatar, the source of the all that is, that created all of it, created Ea, okay, right. Created Arda, created all of it through the Ainur singing the 3 songs. So, okay. In this, I did read that part. Okay. You know what? I'll read it again just to be sure. In the Silmarillion, the Elvish languages, particularly Quenya and Sindarin, carry a profound connection to the beauty of creation and the lost unity with the divine. This highlights both the potential of language to foster communion and the inevitable gaps that remain between different realms of existence. As readers engage with Tolkien's work, they may find themselves drawn into the intricate details of his languages, experiencing the deep sense of longing that permeates much of his Legendarium. This exploration of the language gap invites readers to reflect on the relationships between language, culture, and spirituality, both in Tolkien's world and in our own world. That is so significant too. I really do believe that.
And where it talks about the deep sense of longing, that was one of the first. I mean, when I started to have contact with other people who were interested in Tolkien, they would mention that a lot. And at the time, I didn't really get it. But
so it's not not just spiritually awake people that are having that longing. It is literally anybody that is attracted to the stories, and even if it's subconscious and they may not know like why their attraction is so deep, and they might be receiving that divine essence because of when they are reading those languages, it vibrates and it puts them in an altered state, like even if it's a mild altered state. So, yeah. And let me switch back and see, first off, if Dekindre is back. Is Dekindre back? Awesome.
I'm here.
And I wanted to see if anybody has commented. So we have 3 people watching still. No comments other than anything that I've typed into the comments area.
Yours, from what I saw, the stuff you posted for me shows in a private chat. Not a.
Oh, I see that. Okay,
so
you're right. And by the way, Starflower is here. Thank you so much, Starflower. I was looking at the wrong area. I thought I was looking at the comments. Apparently, I was looking at the private chat.
Oh, okay.
So welcome. There's 4 people watching now, just FYI. And so Starflower says Tolkien must have had Elven DNA. What a profound awakening. He had to co-create this language. Wow. Wow.
And then do you want me to read the next one, the influence of linguistic structures on narrative and myth?
Okay. Sure. Yes. And then what we'll do is we'll go back to, and then we'll let Dekindre take over the next section after this.
Okay. The linguistic, the influence of linguistic structures on narrative and myth, and this image here. This is a picture of Tolkien's original artwork and writing of the King's Letter, and that's it.
Yeah.
It at the very end of The Lord of the Rings in the book version, King Elisar, who was Aragorn and now he's King Aragorn, basically wrote this letter to invite some of the hobbits to Gondor. So that's what this letter is, and I believe it's written in Tangwar, but if I remember correctly, it's actually written in Westron. I think. But
Oh,
then again,
meaning
I
the
haven't studied
language
that
of
for.
Westeros.
Yeah, right,
Yes.
right. So
But you can use Tengwar to write in other languages. It's
yeah,
not
you
just
can use it.
Quenya and
Oh
Sindarin.
yeah, it's a full
Yeah,
representational system. You could use it to write
yeah,
Spanish or English or
that's true. Yeah,
Arabic for that matter. You
absolutely. Yeah.
know, or
It
Chinese.
might be an
Although,
improvement for some
yeah,
of us,
yeah,
like
yeah,
certainly looks elegant, right?
yeah,
Um, so yeah, and so the source is right next to it. So go
yeah.
ahead, Dave.
Okay. Uh, Tolkien's use of names and languages is rich with symbolism, enhancing the narrative and deepening the reader's understanding of his characters and settings. For example, Mordor, meaning black land in Sindarin, invokes darkness and foreboding, perfectly encapsulating Sauron's domain. Similarly, Gondor, meaning stone land, reflects the resilience and strength of its people. Character names are equally significant. Eärendil, meaning sea lover, highlights his connection to water, a common motif in shamanic traditions where water symbolizes transformation and spiritual insight. This interplay between language and symbolism allows Tolkien to convey complex ideas and emotions through subtle linguistic choices. By embedding mythological and symbolic layers within his languages, Tolkien creates a multidimensional narrative that resonates both intellectually and emotionally. His approach reflects a shamanic understanding of language as a conduit for deeper truths, bridging the mundane and the mystical. Tolkien's engagement with language extends beyond symbolism to include how its structure influenced the narrative and myth and the narrative and the myth within his Legendarium. The phonetics and grammar of his languages are essential to the identity and culture of the peoples who speak them. Quenya, the High Elvish language, reflects the nobility and spiritual depth of the elves through its lyrical quality and complex grammar. In contrast, the harsh guttural sounds of Orcish emphasize raw power and brutality. This linguistic differentiation reinforces the thematic elements of Tolkien's narratives. In his world, language is intertwined with identity and morality. The elves, deeply connected to their spiritual and natural realms, speak languages filled with beauty and harmony. Meanwhile, the darker characters, such as the orcs, communicate in languages that reflect their corruption and disconnection from the sacred. This echoes a shamanic belief that language carries spiritual power and reveals the essence of its speakers. The structure of Tolkien's languages also carries historical significance, enriching the lore of Middle-earth. The evolution of these languages mirrors the historical trajectories of the races that speaks them, much like the development of real-world languages. For instance, the shift from Quenya to Sindarin among the elves reflects the changing circumstances and impact of external forces, such as Morgoth's rise and the fragmentation of their society. Tolkien's mastery of language extends beyond words to encompass the cultural framework in which these languages exist. The linguistic intricacies not only deepen the world building, but also serve as a narrative device, allowing readers to fully immerse themselves in a rich mythological universe. This approach aligns with the shamanic view of language as a vessel for cultural memory and collective identity. And who wants to read that?
Excellent.
I'll
Hang
take
on a
over.
second. I'm almost done. What I'm doing is, because I ended up putting all of those links into
Okay, right.
the private chat, I now copied all of them into the other thing while I was switching back and forth, going to. So, but we have a record of all of these links into the regular place now where it's supposed to be.
All right.
So are we now at the role of myth and symbolism in language creation? Okay.
Yep, that's where we are.
Okay, and who is taking over?
I am.
Okay, awesome.
The role of myth and symbolism in language creation. Tolkien's language creation is steeped in myth and symbolism, drawing upon various cultural traditions to construct a rich tapestry of meaning. Each language within his Legendarium is not only a means of communication, but also a carrier of mythological significance. The names of characters, places, and even the languages themselves are often laden with symbolic meaning that enriches the narrative. For example, the name Angband,
Angband, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Angband, which means iron prison in Sindarin, evokes a sense of cold, unyielding confinement and foreboding, encapsulating the essence of Morgoth's dark fortress. Similarly, the name
Doriath.
Doriath, which translates to Land of the Girdle, reflects the protection and enchantment provided by Melian's magical fence, symbolizing the realm's isolation and safety. This symbolic naming convention extends to individual characters, whose names often reveal aspects of their personalities or destinies.
I just want to say here, for people who may not know, the quote unquote girdle of Melian was basically a sort of enchantment that she surrounded their whole. She was married to King Eleuthingol, who was a gray elven king, and Doriath was their homeland, and she surrounded it with a sort of enchantment where if enemies or even people that weren't supposed to be there, that weren't them, they would wander around in there and eventually die because they couldn't find their way out. So it was quite a force field.
It was a spell, definitely. It would be like a disorientation, and it was very protective, and it protected them for a long time.
Right.
So
one notable example is Turin, the great tragic hero of the First Age. His name is a combination of Tur, victory, and Ind, heart, both elements from the Sindarin language. This combination suggests a character driven by a noble and valiant heart, destined for great deeds. However, his later chosen name, Turambar, meaning master of doom / fate, reveals a darker and more complex layer. Turin adopts this name in pride, believing he can master his own fate. But it ultimately becomes a poignant reflection of his tragic destiny, as he is unable to escape the doom that befalls him. Another example is Aragorn, a key figure in the Third Age. His name, Aragorn, is a Sindarin masculine name that combines Aaron, king, and Gorn, valor, meaning revered king, or kingly valor. This name underscores his royal lineage and the nobility and courage that define his character. He also goes by the name Strider, a humble and unassuming alias that he uses while living in the wild, far from the courts and thrones. The contrast between these two names, Aragorn, the noble heir, and Strider, the rugged ranger, highlights the dual nature of his identity and the journey he must undertake to reclaim his rightful place as the King of Gondor. The use of names and language in this way serves as a powerful narrative tool, allowing Tolkien to convey complex ideas and emotions through subtle linguistic cues. These names not only add depth to the characters, but also enrich the overall tapestry of Middle-earth, making the world and its inhabitants feel more real and meaningful. Moreover, the symbolism inherent in Tolkien's languages reflects the deeper philosophical and spiritual themes present in his work. The Elvish languages, rooted in the mythic past of Middle-earth, embody concepts of time, beauty, and eternity. In contrast, the languages of more transient races like men often convey themes of mortality and loss. This interplay between language and theme underscores the broader narrative arc of Tolkien's Legendarium, reinforcing the connection between language, identity, and the human experience. By embedding mythological and symbolic layers within his languages, Tolkien creates a multi-dimensional narrative that resonates with readers on both intellectual and emotional levels. This approach reflects a shamanic understanding of language as a means of conveying deeper truths, bridging the gap between the mundane and the mystical.
I love it. Okay, bridging the gap, Eärendil, and the concept of duality. So here's a really great picture of Eärendil. Awesome. And we have a source probably. Oh, yep, here it is. The source right here, tolkiengateway.net. Excellent. Eärendil, the mariner who sails the skies, is a central figure in Tolkien's Legendarium that embodies the bridging of worlds. His journey reflects the duality present in Tolkien's works, light and darkness, mortal and immortal, language and silence. Eärendil's role as a mariner serves as a metaphorical representation of the connection between the physical world and the divine. In many ways, Eärendil's story parallels the shamanic journey, where the shaman traverses between the realms to bring back knowledge and healing for their community. Eärendil's voyages can be seen as a quest for understanding, seeking to reconcile the disparate elements of existence. His name, meaning sea lover, signifies his connection to the waters, a common motif in shamanic traditions where water represents transformation and spiritual insight. And I would even say, like in psychological terms, the water can resonate with the subconscious.
Mm-hmm. I'll write that down too.
Eärendil's ultimate transformation into a star serves as a powerful metaphor for transcending earthly limitations. His celestial embodiment reflects the notion that language, like Eärendil, can serve as a bridge between human and the divine, offering insight and inspiration. In this way, Eärendil's narrative demonstrates the potential of language to elevate the human experience, transcending the language gap and connecting individuals to a greater cosmic narrative. This connection is not limited to Eärendil alone. It permeates the entire fabric of Tolkien's Legendarium, where characters often embark on journeys that echo shamanic quests. These journeys serve as avenues for self-discovery, enlightenment, and connection to the divine. The interplay of language, myth, and character in Tolkien's work illustrates the profound capacity of narrative to convey spiritual truths, reflecting the shamanic belief in the transformative power of storytelling. So we are at the conclusion. My goodness, we did get through this, Dave.
Yeah. Do you want me to read that, or
you can begin,
okay.
And we can go back and forth, just like how we're doing.
Okay. Conclusion: the legacy of language in Tolkien's work. The exploration of language within Tolkien's Legendarium reveals a profound interplay of linguistic activity, spiritual depth, and mythological resonance. By examining his work through the lens of shamanic traditions and neurotheology, we gain insight into connections between language, identity, and the divine. Tolkien's languages such as Quenya and Sindarin are not merely storytelling devices, but are conduits for exploring deeper truths, reflecting the sacred role of language in the various shamanic cultures. His creative process mirrors the shamanic journey, where deeper states of consciousness are accessed to uncover and reveal the languages and stories of his world. Does somebody else want to read
Sure. The journey of Eärendil, along with the symbolic significance of names and linguistic structures, illustrates how language can bridge the gap between the human and the divine. These linguistic elements enrich Tolkien's narrative, allowing readers to engage in his work on multiple levels. Ultimately, Tolkien's legacy is one of linguistic and narrative innovation, where language serves as a powerful vehicle for spiritual exploration and connection. His work reminds us that language is not just a tool of communication, but a means by which humans seek to touch the divine, bridging the gap between the seen and the unseen worlds. This echoes ancient traditions where language was viewed as a sacred gift, a conduit for expressing profound spiritual truths and connecting with the cosmos. And Dave, that is a brilliant article. This is probably one of your best ones, even if you're not a linguist.
Yeah.
So we have a long list of references here that you guys can go through. Again, it's linked in the area, and you'll see that there's other articles here. Our link tree also has a link to all of Dave's articles on HackMD, and they're all fantastic. They even go into things that we haven't done videos on. For instance, like the ones that where you discover where other people are like, I'm confused between, Way of Arda's lore and Il Salunte Valion. I don't get it. Why are you guys two different groups?
Yeah, what's up with that?
He does a paper. It's like, hey, I'll help you out. Boom, does the paper. So it's great because now we can say, attached, please find a link that actually explains everything in detail. And as we know from Dave, in his prior material, he's very detailed and will, lead you step by step so that you'll probably, if you have any kind of, focus on something, you will get the answer because he covers every angle. And so it's a marvelous thing.
When we were talking about the dwarves earlier, at the very end of the references here, if you go to the very end, this is the actual quote from Tolkien on dwarves and language, and this is what he's talking about, how the languages change differently between the different races. The tongue of the Eldar changed mainly by design. That of the dwarves resisted change by their own will. The many languages of men changed heedlessly in the swift passing of their generations. So there you have three different races, as Tolkien calls them, or I would call them species, and how the language is expressed differently, and how they, the dwarves hang on to their language and don't want it to change. The elves like change, but it's according to the design pattern, whereas humans just blubber, and whatever happens.
Yeah, exactly. So, fantastic. It was a great night. I think that, I know it took a little bit longer than our normal videos, but we had 7,000 words to get through, and I think that it was brilliant. And I am so happy that we did this video because, Dave, I'm just telling you, it was such a casual comment for me, to tell you, hey, I think that Tolkien, learned Elvish from the same beings that he was getting the stories from, and I didn't realize that it would just end up not only being such a deep topic, but how many other threads in the world, across the world, have the same kind of stories and the same kind of, evolving, how did language come in your existence? Oh, wow. It was inspired by the gods. It's pretty incredible.
I guess that's the main difference. But, when other people talk about researching, they use the phrase, go down rabbit holes. I don't go down a rabbit hole. I go up on the top of the mountain and view everything as it looks from the top of the mountain, and then collect all those different threads, basically.
Well, and I would go on to say that it expands upon one of the many reasons that Tolkien's Legendarium is so drastically different than other works of modern fiction, of what you would consider fantasy fiction, because most of those, no matter how well written, they read almost flat and lifeless compared to the emotional reaction that Tolkien's languages are, and just writing style even, are imbued with.
Well, it's different to write from the imagination versus the imaginal realm. It's very different process.
And so that's just one more piece that shows why his work is considered so much.
It really is. It really is, Dick Andre. Thank you for even going that much further.
I wanted to speak a little bit on that. I remember, I don't know how many years it was now, at least it was probably around 2015 or so. There was that big George R.R. Martin series, Game of Thrones, that everybody was
that's not inspired by Tolkien in any single way, shape, or form. All
it was people killing and raping each other. From my point of view, I saw a few of the episodes.
That's about what it was as a show, and even as the books, it was basically, oh, you're just now starting to like my character? Dead. Oh, you absolutely love this character? Dead. It was needless.
I know.
I didn't get why it was so attractive, because
it was supposed to be realistic, but I think that it was very depressing, and perhaps it was real. Okay. From historical aspects, but I think that there's always danger, and I think that the most dangerous predator on the planet is other people. Let's face it.
But see,
even from historical, it really wasn't. Martin.
Oh, I think that there was a lot of shenanigans back when there was no accountability.
There might have been, but Martin.
We're in a different age now. Yeah.
Well, Martin's whole thing was he wrote it pretty much for the shock value of. It wasn't written for any real reason other than I'm just going to write a series that's completely shock and awe type thing, which kind of says a lot considering that he never actually finished the series yet.
Exactly.
The end of the book series, or the end of the video series, isn't with what's going to be canon in the books, maybe because he hadn't written it, so they got writers to just be like, we're going to throw this in, this is how the series ends, but they had no book, and he's made very little effort to even complete the series. So he wrote it almost as, what drivel can I slap on a page, pander to the masses, and they'll love, and I make a ton of money on, but I don't have to do much effort.
Exactly. But see, if and I not people who don't know me don't know this, but I do have sort of a thuggish underling. But if I wanted to
see that, the tiger, the tiger.
Yeah. If I wanted to see that, I would want to see gangsters in the hood spraying each other with Tech 9s. That's more of my style.
That's funny.
I want to see modern.
Change that so that, because you guys are not on the camera really. So, oh, Jennifer, thank you for popping on and saying howdy. So Starflower and Jennifer popped into the comments and said hi, and Starflower is so amazed by this presentation. She thought it was very deep and very informative and inspirational. And Jennifer says that she popped in late and she'll have to watch the whole thing, and thank you. So Jennifer, this will probably be something in our core curriculum for people to watch, even though it's a public video. Only because there was so much material covered here. It's literally a great, you can put it in the background and you can listen to just the spiritual aspects of Tolkien's, not just his Legendarium, but his languages. I mean, Dave did a lot of work to find a lot of similar cultures that had similar experiences with the origins of their languages being from spiritual sources. It's incredible. And even if you scan the document itself, you're going to just go, wow, this is so awesome. And it all started from me just thinking hey, I think that this is what happened. When Tolkien was in his trance or altered states, that he not only received the tales, He not only received the stories, but he literally learned the language in those liminal spaces as well. And I really think that that's what happened. And then Dave said, let's see if that even is possible or works or whatever. And he found a tremendous amount of, if you will, examples of other cultures in real life that has done this. And it's amazing. I can't wait till you can see the whole thing.
In my way, I'm like Mr. Spock. Whatever the consideration is, it has to be logically structured, and you have to build a framework where, for whatever the person says, has to be made plausible. So that's what I did. I spent so much work on this one, and then it threw out, as Tolkien would say, unexpected branches in different directions, and that's how I found out the other cultures. And I put those in because in the past I've gotten flack by people saying Tolkien is just you're dumb. It's just a fantasy story. It doesn't relate to the real world in any sense.
Yeah, they're not paying attention. Yeah. They're not paying attention. And by the way, that's okay. Maybe it's not for them. Maybe it's not a vibrational match for them. That's okay. I'm actually shocked, to be honest with you, that people did not create a spiritual understanding of Tolkien's material earlier than we did. I'm just astounded, honestly.
Yeah, didn't you say that before you found me that you were looking for that sort of thing? And yeah, you just couldn't find it?
I could not find it anywhere. So this is how I know that, that you are the first one. Now, I'm not saying that other paths didn't use elements of Tolkien blended into their paganism or, or their, occult magic practice. Like they brought elements in, but it was like a visit, it was like visiting versus living there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, apparently from my research, and I learned more when Marcus Davidson researched us, because he did research. He tried to find the same thing you did for his academic paper. And apparently the only one really before us was something called Elf Queen's Daughters, which I guess some of them later became the Silver Elves group, but they were the only one that predates us, but they're not the same focus, so.
Right. Yeah. And by the way, I wanted to actually highlight Jennifer's comment. and says, writing from imagination is different from writing from seeing into the world that is displayed around you. Dave, I appreciate all your work. And I'm going to go ahead and, since I didn't actually get to highlight Starflower's comment, that says, thank you for this fantastic live cast and document. Very inspirational and deep. So brilliant. I'm so glad you guys have come in. And what I did was I put some comments here in, let's see. Oh, here's another comment that Starflower created. She says, Tolkien must have had Elven DNA. What a profound awakening he had to co-create this language. And my feeling is that she means co-create like with them. Like, you know what I mean? Not with another human.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. I think that that's just amazing. So video wise, we got the cymatics video. We have the video that is about the Siberian shamanism, and we have the video that was the transcendental drumming, etc. and like how that works with the healing,
drum therapy,
from a regular practice, practice, and that it's about 30 minutes long and stuff like that. From Dave, we have Il Salunte Valion, so we have the link for you to join that. So we thought that we would post that. And earlier when he talked about Gnosticism, I wrote the original meaning of wisdom and knowing knowledge of Gnosis or Gnostic, not the religion named Gnosticism.
Yeah, there's a wonderful site if you want to know what words really mean. It's called Etymology Online, ETYMOL.
Etymology,
and then online.com, and you go there and you can type in any
is there
word.
A hyphen in between it?
No, it's just all run together as one long word. Etymology Online.
Okay.
I can
let me go ahead and link it. No, it's fine. I can do it. And then I'll highlight it. Okay, etymologyonline.com. Is that the correct way?
Yeah.
Can you?
I'm pretty
Okay.
sure. Let me see here. So, oh, well, it would help if I could spell it right. Let's see here. Got a K in there. See, I make a lot of typos because I have fine motor
Oh.
control problems. So let's see. Etymology. Let's see. That's not hitting the. I'll just type it in and I will tell you.
Okay, in the private chat.
Yeah. The
Okay.
easiest way I can find that, like Google.
Yeah, and I'll compare what I see, like, because I'm pretty sure I got it, but I'll let you go ahead and do that, and then we'll go ahead and end the video very soon.
I'll type this in here.
Yeah.
There we are.
Etymologyonline.com. Oh, it's like Tim Online. It's at Tim.
Yeah. Yeah. What looks like, yeah. See, I don't even pay attention to that because I just type etymology online on Google and then that's how I find it. But
oh, okay. Let me try this again. Okay.
Yeah, it's ATYMO and then the O. What was the first O in online?
Etim online. Okay.
Yeah.
And what I'm going to do is show etimonline.com. Is this the way, Dave?
Let me look at just a second. I got to get back to the.
Yeah, because that's what I'm showing in the private chat, like literally.
Yeah. That's it. Yep.
Okay.
And you could. It's a huge data. It's kind of like the Oxford English Dictionary in that regard, but it's free. So the Oxford English Dictionary.
Beautiful. That's a great resource then.
Oxford English
Dictionary. Yeah, I'm glad I'm highlighting it.
Like,
and so this is a good resource for if we don't have access to like the gazillions of words Oxford Dictionary that would like probably take up an entire desk, of somebody.
Well, even
so
for individuals,
fantastic.
I want you to spend like $800 a year or something like that to access it.
Right.
So that's why most people access it through their library. But
Right. And actually, I want to hide that. And okay, I think that I'm hiding everything now. Oh, and I'll turn off the banner. So if you guys are watching the replay and you have questions, we'll definitely answer them, but do it in the comments.
Absolutely.
Because the live chat is not going to work. And yay, DeKindre is back, so we can say goodbye to our audience. So I'll go ahead and hide the banner. And yay, let me put us back all in equal footing here. There we go. So let's say goodbye to our wonderful audience. Thank you guys for all coming. I'm so excited that this means something to you as much as it meant to me. And I'm so happy about that. And thank you for coming. And this will be part of the core curriculum at some point.
And we do enjoy putting the videos on for everyone and going into deeper aspects that you don't usually see elsewhere around. So
right.
Yeah. And for those that didn't catch the announcement earlier, for patrons that were expecting their Septuquitra necklace by the holiday season, we had a snag in that. We actually had right when we had money put together for everybody to receive one, and even people buying their own like extra ones, we were going to place the order as soon as we had all of that together. And then silver went up 25% and it made it like not possible to do that. It does make us we refunded everybody's extra money first. And then what we're going to be doing is doing the setup of our organization, in order to get the new EIN number and other things. We're going to set it up as a Montana nonprofit organization rather than a California one, because California, for whatever reason, just doesn't want to make us a nonprofit for them. I don't know why. It's just what it is.
We still had. It's important for us to do too legally, because we found out that the former board member is somehow like using our our
EIN number to
Yeah, like not in the right way. Yeah.
Right.
Weird shell corporations or whatever.
So taking this chance or this opportunity to officially make our switch from Tia Elda Lieva to Way of Arda's Lore is part of the rebrand and reorganization and securing the organization from issues like Dave and Lisa said with a former board member who is out there trying to misrepresent things. So
yeah. And, you know, we're still the original, you know, like original path of, you know, based on Tolkien's Legendarium. And I'm not saying that other people can't exist. That's certainly not the case. But I don't think that it's a good idea to like illegally represent like that, you know, and using numbers improperly, you know, for, you know, the tax benefit that, you know, we pay for. Like we paid $600 to the IRS for. We've paid money to the state of California and still never got anywhere. So, you know, we're going to do that in a place that's easier now. And since I've been visiting in Montana quite a bit, it seemed to make sense to have a presence here through a PO box and to, you know, like even, you know, like all of the addresses that we need, like the street addresses, the mailing addresses, all of the stuff. But we are on it. Okay. Like we are totally good. And things are on track. It's just that there's a lot on our plates, and, with Dekindre moving, and I'm basically, you know, kind of been, you know, like, I guess on this never ending couch journey for the last 4 years, you know, the couch surfing thing. And also, you know, just other things happening in the world right now. I mean, it's pretty incredible. So thank you again for being here. We really appreciate you. And especially to our patrons. We're going to be also at some point, I think, migrating away from MailChimp and putting people into free membership into Patreon if they want to keep up with news with us in a way that is like actually healthy and you want to see it in your inbox instead of like, oh no, another newsletter. You know what I mean? Like we want to have a way to keep you up to date and like more involved in our community. And we want to do it in an easy way so that it doesn't go to your spam, you know, and other things, and that it's easier for us to operate because we don't have a staff to, you know, we don't have virtual assistants like helping us with any of this stuff. So
no, we do all of this all on our own.
That's right. That's right. So have a good night, you guys, and thank you so much for coming. We so appreciate you. Have a good night.
Goodbye, everyone.
I'm having the same problem again, Dave. So. I'm clicking on the button. I'm clicking on the button and it's not working. Yeah, we really want to end this thing. StreamYard is having a technical glitch that they haven't fixed yet. And so I am doing the best I can to do a workaround. Okay. Okay, what it does is that it's a drop-down box, and then as soon as I get to the button, the drop-down box disappears, and that's why I can't turn the stream off.